G'day, Kaz. Episode 3 of the podcast. We're moving through them.
Yep.
Yeah, first 2 episodes we shared a little bit about how we ended up in Raleigh, why we love Raleigh, and today we're going to dive more into what keeps bringing us back to Raleigh.
Yep.
How we ended up in Raleigh as parents with Kalira. How we got started in our blogging journey that launched us into being able to live here full time as green card holders.
Yep, pretty crazy story. A lot of people ask us, so we thought, why not share it in the first few episodes of this podcast? So that's what we're going to do today. But first of all, we just wanted to share something pretty cool we discovered yesterday out and about exploring Raleigh. We make an effort to get out every weekend and try and find something new. So what did we find? Not too far from our house too.
Yeah, well, we're always at home. The kids are at home doing online schooling at the moment, and probably
As our most are.
everybody's kids are
Since
probably at
COVID.
home stuck in. So we make an effort to get out of the house on the weekends and try and do some nature. So there's lots of trails in Raleigh, obviously, and Carey, the whole triangle area. And we went to one in Carey yesterday, Hemlock's Bluffs, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's just off Kildare Farm Road, just past the Whole Foods in Carey there. And it was an easy, 1.2 mile loop walk through nature.
Yeah, they have a couple of trails. We combined two of them, the beach something
You're going to forget now.
and the something and the Chestnut Oak Trail.
Yeah, but it's easily signposted.
Yeah.
It's a well-developed trail. There's a parking lot. There's a little kids' play area trail at the start,
that was
actually,
really cool
at
for the younger kids.
At
Yep.
the centre. So that was cool for Savannah.
Yeah.
But yeah, easy walk. Not a lot of people around. It was nice in the afternoon. I mean, obviously it's winter, so there's no leaves and it's pretty bare trees and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, really nice. So that's a nice, if you're in the Carey area, even if not, you could drive and discover it, but it's a nice little place just to get your nature fix.
Yeah, Hemlock's Bluffs.
Yep.
And last night we went out to dinner. First time we got a suggestion from a community member on Instagram to go and check out Gonza Tacos and Tequila.
Thanks, JJ.
Yeah, Jason, I believe his name is. We haven't met in person yet, but he sends us a lot of great tips.
And it was JJ that helped us find the amazing 99 cents shrimp bar on the pier.
Outer Banks.
In the Outer Banks.
The Outer
We have
Banks
a blog
fishing pier.
post and video on it. Check it
Yes.
out. That was like the find of the USA, that one.
Yes. What's the name of that bar again? It just escapes me.
It does. How bad is that? But we have too much going on in our head to
Love
remember.
that bar. We've been to a lot of places.
Yeah, it was the
recently.
actual Outer Banks fishing pier.
Fish Heads Bar and Grill.
Fish Heads Bar and
How could I
Grill,
forget?
guys. Don't miss it. Really, that was like a superb spot.
Yeah, I think in winter, a friend of ours just went there recently and it wasn't on. Obviously, winter time, they might have different hours and
Yeah,
schedule
right.
and stuff like that, but check it out before you go.
Yeah, and COVID, of course, the live music wasn't on when we visited because COVID was on, and so
No.
it's a little different now. But
Yeah, but we
Still
went
great.
to, last night we had a family dinner at Gonzo Tacos and the Tequila on Hillsborough Street, just near Jabala, if you're familiar with the NC State area. I believe they have 3 locations in Raleigh, North Raleigh, and actually there's one in Carey and
not near our house. I'm excited to check it out.
Waverley Place
Yeah.
near Whole Foods again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fun.
I liked it
Good
a lot.
food, had good cocktails, fun vibe, some cool music playing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was decorated. It was really cool inside with the kind of like star decorations and some cool artwork, and I just really loved the vibe there. It was great, and they had lots of mezcal. And mezcal's my favorite liquor. I don't drink a lot of liquor, but I love mezcal, so it was great to have a mezcal cocktail.
Actually, we don't eat a lot of Mexican, but there's so many Mexican places
Yeah.
in and around Raleigh now, and I got our work to do, cut out.
Oh yeah, I'm
check them
excited
all
to do
out,
that.
but Yeah.
It's good. Mexican is doable for us because I can't eat gluten. Craig doesn't eat much of it, and so Mexican really is one cuisine that's fairly easy for us to find something to eat.
Yeah, just the heaviness sometimes with too much cheese. I think
You can never have
I
too
love
much cheese.
but yeah, that's one of those things. Tastes great at the time, but then you feel it a little bit later
Yeah.
or the next day.
Yeah.
All right, so first moved to Raleigh 2004, 2006 on your teaching program. We went back to Australia and moved to the Sunshine Coast, a place called Mooloolaba, just an hour north of Brisbane. Amazing area in Australia. Again, you're going to be wondering why we left the shores of the beaches of Queensland and the Sunshine Coast. But as great as it was, we just, again, had itchy feet and had thoughts of coming back to Raleigh and invested in real estate, actually.
Yeah.
Because it was 2000, this is 2008 we're talking. Well, 2009 we started getting itching feet and figuring out a way to come back to Raleigh. And that's when you put your hand up again, and maybe I can do the VIF teaching exchange program again and get another J1, J2 visa for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, in our last episode, we spoke about how I was done with teaching, and we left after 2 years the first time because we could have stayed for 3, but I just couldn't do the teaching anymore and thought I was going to be out for good. But when we came back, I think the first experience we had intentionally when we first came over here to the USA, it was just going to be another one of those working abroad experiences for us. It's like, yeah, let's go live in the US for a couple of years, it'll be fun, and then we'll move on to the next thing. And we didn't realise this was going to happen, but when we moved back to Australia, we missed the US so much. And we spoke about last episode, the vibrant lifestyle, the access we have to so much diversity here. We just really missed that, and we realised, I think we really want to live in the US. So then it was like, okay, the only option was for me to go back to teaching. So I was like, okay, well, if it means we can come back and live in the US, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But there's a few other differences in this time. We actually were looking for ways to replace our income, and real estate was one of those ways. So in 2007, I guess we have to go back to this story first. You were, 6 months pregnant with Kalara?
Maybe 5, yeah.
5 months pregnant with Kalara, and we've been learning about real estate, and Raleigh, being the real estate market that it was, always has this steady growth, not the huge spikes and dips like some cities and states around the US. So Raleigh was a exciting place to invest. So we'd done our research, and we're like, we want to buy like an apartment or some apartments or a multifamily property. We did all our research online, and we thought, let's take a trip over there and go and check out a few places, meet some realtors and see what we can do. We actually owned a place free and clear in Australia. So we took out a line of credit of that for our deposit. And found
Sad
ourselves...
story.
Well, ends up a bit of a sad story. It depends the way you look at it. We ended up coming back, flying all the way over to the US, lined up a few realtors and did some tours around Raleigh and Durham, looking at various properties, and found a place just outside of downtown Raleigh, a 4-unit multifamily property. When we looked at the numbers, if it was fully occupied and rents were coming in, it was going to be cash flow positive, X amount of $100 per month. And we're like, wow, this is amazing, because pretty much all real estate in Australia is, you're not going to find cash flow positive investments.
No.
I don't know what's going on there right now. It's probably even harder. But at the time, no. And so, yeah, we got stars in our eyes and got excited about that. You wanted to get out of teaching. I wanted to get out of construction. We're always looking for ways to work for ourselves and create income streams to replace our JOB lifestyle. So that was going to be the first property in our resume of
our portfolio.
Property tycoons. But yeah, of course, it didn't work out that way because it wasn't the best location in Raleigh. We had issues with tenants. We had issues with maintenance, with crime, all the above. And it ended up...
the GFC.
The GFC, yeah. Actually, we took out a loan during the subprime fiasco. We probably got a loan when we shouldn't have got a loan, because they were basically just handing them out to anybody without, qualification. Qualification was way easy. And
we were also dealing with currency exchange too, because we had Australian dollars. So I think when we invested it was pretty good exchange rate, but it fell down when we were, trying to cover the rent the tenant's not paying. So all the money that was going into the property to maintain and manage it from our end was Australian dollars, which was not good, because at that time the exchange rate was really low. So we were just losing money. We had like a really big hole in our bucket.
Yeah, actually, when the time when we decided to buy the property, we're still moving back. We're still flying back to Australia. We weren't living in the US at the time. So we had to find a property manager, which was difficult. Most property managers wouldn't touch it because of the street that was on, which should have been a massive red
Yeah.
flag. We had a lot of red flags,
Yeah.
and that was another one.
We were just so desperate to get back here that we were willing to take
I know.
any risk, even the stupid risk.
Like, so we're going to be living in Australia, and having a manager in Raleigh manage this property, and we couldn't find one. We finally found one within like an hour before closing, and I remember feeling very nervous and gut instinct.
Said no.
We shouldn't have done
You
it.
bloody idiot.
But we spent all that money to fly over the 2 weeks looking around, and we're like, we need to come away with something out of that investment of time and stuff, which, was just crazy. We should have walked away at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went through it. We bought the property. We're back in Australia for another 6 months or so, trying to figure out a way how to get back to the US.
It was probably
teaching.
another year because we had Kalira and then we moved over here when she was 9 months. So it was some time.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there were a couple of months where rent come in and it was fine and stuff and no issues, no maintenance and stuff like that. But then it all started going downhill pretty quick, and we had to start digging into our savings it become a hole in the bucket. We just had to start using our savings to deal with maintenance issues and fix up the gap in the mortgage where rent payments weren't coming in. But then, you figured out, you decided that you want to do the teaching thing again. And I think the process of getting back into that was a lot easier being an alumni
Yeah, it was.
by memory.
Yeah. I was fortunate because the school that I taught at last time, South Smithfield Elementary, which I really wanted to return to because I loved that school and I loved my teacher colleagues. We just got on so well, and I got on really well with the principal, but unfortunately they didn't have a position. But she was able to contact the principal of the school my first year. So she was the principal of the second year that I was there. And he was principal of a new school that had just opened, also in Johnston County. And he was like, yep, for sure. I'll take her. She's hired. So it was really comforting to be able to move through that process really easy this time compared to last, but also to know where I was going, know the school county. I knew the principal. I didn't know much about the school, but I was going in with a lot more knowledge, which made it much easier. And so I had a year there again in 5th grade, and then I was so happy that for my second year at South Smithfield Elementary, a position opened up because they were trying to get me in there. And a position opened up, so I was able to class share with Mary. We mentioned Mary. So I class shared. She was doing 3 days a week and I was doing 2 days a week in the classroom. And then the other days I was working on small group instruction. So it was great. It was really good experience.
Yeah, the whole move back again was much easier, even as far as finding a place to live, because, we'd spent the 2 years in Raleigh. We knew the area a lot better. We even looked online in Australia and sourced out a few options, and had Hidish, our friend. I mean, he went and inspected a few places for us ahead of time, just to make the whole transition quicker and easier. Again, you're in South Smithfield area in Johnston County, but we lived in Raleigh again on Lake Johnson, but on the other side of Lake Johnson, because we just love the area so well. So that worked out great. The only difference was, obviously we had Kalira. She was 10 months old, and I had to think about employment myself. I didn't want to go back into construction. So I ended up finding a job at RDU at the airport, working with Delta, out on the ramp with the planes and stuff, which was a whole new perspective behind the scenes at an airport. It was fun and stuff. Again, the money wasn't great, but the hours were kind of okay. The other challenge was we had to find a babysitter for Kalira. And we ended up finding an in-house babysitting service with
childcare, which was great.
a lady who had her own daughter, same age as Claire actually, and an elder son, and 1 or 2 other young kids. So,
yeah, it was perfect.
and that was down in Johnston County as well.
Yeah, it was good.
By memory.
And part of your job at Delta meant that we could get free standby flights, which was great because we didn't have a lot of money thanks to the investment, and our salaries weren't great. So we were able to use that. We didn't actually use it too much because we couldn't, but we did go to Puerto Rico on that, and those flights got us back to Australia when we eventually came back in 2010.
Like I said, the hourly wage wasn't great, but the perks helped.
Yeah.
Actually, we went to New Orleans as well.
That's right, we did. Yep.
Yeah, so we flew for free.
Actually, New Orleans was our first travel-related thing we wrote about on Why Travel Blog, because we had just started it.
True.
Yep.
Yeah. So I end up getting free flights to Puerto Rico, New Orleans, and at the end of the 2 years, we're jumping ahead a bit now, but yeah, we actually had business class flights back to Australia and shipped all our stuff back for free, which was cool.
That was really very handy. It saved us thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So I worked for Delta, for RDU. You did your teaching thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Clara was the homeschooling. We weren't out and about as much on the weekends in the party scene, obviously, being parents. It's a bit more limiting and stuff.
Yeah.
But we still had a ton of fun.
Yeah, and we still felt like we still loved it here, and we felt like this was really where we wanted to live. We knew that hadn't changed. So it was good to come back the second time to figure out, okay, is this really what we want? And we did figure out that it was,
Even though instead of spending time at bars and pubs and stuff, I spent more time at Pullen Park and Marbles Kids Museum downtown, which was fun. That was great.
Yeah, I mean, when you have young
memories.
kids, those places are great. And we used to go to, because we moved down to Ghana at the end of our stint, so we used to go to Lake Benson a lot too, which is a really nice area for families with kids to go or anyone to go. But that was nice. Yeah, nice playground and that there.
Even today, when I say Ghana, people look at me like, Ghana?
From Africa?
Ghana? Oh, Africa. No, not Africa. Ghana. Ghana.
Australians don't pronounce the R at the end of the
word. Get in
word.
Trouble for that.
Yeah.
Fire and beer and water.
We want to make sure we get the beer part right because...
Yeah.
Actually, recently, I can't remember where we were, but it was when we were road tripping in our RV. We were in Oregon, Bend, and I went to ask for a soda and for my child and for Kalira, and I said something to the barman about her being 12. I can't remember the context of the conversation, but I asked for like the apple cider, and so the apple soda, and he hands me a cider, a pint of cider. And I was like, oh, my gosh, there goes my accent again. I'm like, you didn't know this is for my 12-year-old. I wanted a soda. And he said, oh, I thought you said cider.
Yeah, it's always difficult because you drink a lot of cider now.
Cider.
But we always just say, it's to the barman's, like a pint of this beer, IPA, whatever, and a cider. And they always never get the cider or how we say it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The challenges of being a foreigner. It's fabulous. It opens up doors to many fun conversations.
It does.
Yeah.
It's an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, we had a 10-month-old. We're living in Raleigh again. What other trips did we take during that 2 years? We're talking 2008 to 2010.
Well, we did some road trips because we had family come and visit. So when our family comes to visit, we love to take them down to Charleston, Savannah. So we did those. Wilmington, Wrightsville.
Usually maybe Asheville and Biltmore Estate out to the mountains.
So we did those when both our parents came over.
Yeah.
Just little road trips was good.
Yeah. Beaufort and Beaufort.
Yeah, my parents loved both of those towns.
North Carolina.
We both did.
I still get it wrong.
In North Carolina, it's Beaufort because it's the English pronunciation, and in South Carolina it's Beaufort, as in beautiful Beaufort, because that's the French pronunciation. Recently learned that when we were down in Beaufort last summer.
I need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, so beautiful Beaufort is in South Carolina and Beaufort is in the north.
Yeah, that was the fun stuff, but we still had the real estate stuff to deal with, which became an even bigger headache. I thought it'd be easier moving over here and I could take care of some of the maintenance. I could communicate easier with our property manager. But yeah, we just kept digging ourselves into a bigger hole. We had some gang activity on the street.
Police stakeouts. We were helping them with the...
oh my God, it was unbelievable. I think back to it now, it was a nightmare.
It's all a learning
I remember I went to the property
experience.
one time and I got cornered in the property by the tenants, which was quite frightening, actually. Not a situation I envisioned of my real estate dream, but yeah, moving forward from that, the subprime situation got worse. Our finances got worse. And at the end of the day, we put the property up for sale and we tried for a long time to sell it. Reduced costs a lot. We tried alternative ways for buyers to finance it, all the creative options that you have in here in the US that we don't have in Australia, like seller financing and lease options, and even tried to sell it back to the city. it would just become crazy. I tried literally everything.
Yeah, we
and
did.
We just kept losing money. And at the end of the day, it was financed through Wachovia. And if you're familiar with Wachovia and what ended up happening to them, there is no Wachovia anymore. They got consumed by Wells Fargo. And it got to the point where I basically just was speaking to the Wachovia person, financial person, and just said, we're walking away. The keys are in the door. The property's yours.
Yeah, we really had no other choice.
We just had to suck it up. As hard as it was, we thought we exhausted all options.
Yeah.
And obviously our credit, fortunately, the property was only in your name.
Mm-hmm.
So you took a hit on your credit. Mm-hmm. And obviously you guys in the US know how much credit runs your life, which was frustrating. But fortunately, it falls off your report after 7 years, and we have since passed that.
Yeah,
thankfully.
Yeah,
but that was a tough time.
Yeah, and one of the costs of that, as I said, we tried literally everything. It meant we lost our property back in Australia.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had it because we used the line of credit from our property in Australia, everything tied up, and we weren't smart about it, and it just become a house of cards and tumbled down.
Yeah, so we lost our property, which was a couple of blocks from the beach on the Sunshine Coast. I try not to think about it because I do want to cry
which
when I do.
Which we owned free and clear, which would be worth. Don't ask me right now.
Don't ask. Let's not talk about it. But anyway, that's just life. You move on, and we lost it, and we ended up with $30,000 in credit card debt, and we were completely devastated. And this was it's 2010. It's right in the thick of the GFC, and then I lost my teaching job. So this was we were moving into the third year of the program where we were going to stay. And during this time, we had just started the travel blog because we've got to try something. And we realised the thing we loved most in life was traveling. And as we'd mentioned in previous episodes, is all we ever wanted to do with our life. And we had done that through working jobs. And somehow or another, we were researching, we came across travel blogs and saw them, and we said, well, hang on a minute, they're writing about our life for the past 10 years. Surely we could do the same.
Yeah, because the issue we had, we were chasing the money. We chased other online businesses that I'm not going to go into because it's a bit too embarrassing.
Yeah.
We've
tried it all, basically.
We learned how to trade options on the stock market. And my tip with the stock market is don't trade on the stock market with money you can't afford to lose.
And if you're not confident and steady of mind.
Because your emotions are very hard to control. Make the right decision when you're under pressure. And we ended up donating $50,000 to the stock market. I say donating, but lost.
Yeah, God.
So all up in that period of time between 2008 2010, we lost like $500,000 in assets, donated $50,000 in the stock market, ended up in $30,000 in credit card debt.
This was all because we were desperate to live in Raleigh, y'all. So you can understand why we're so happy to be here now. I mean, it was a journey.
Oh man, what a journey
to get here. It really was, and it's why we share this story with you, just because people say, they see our beautiful photos of us on Instagram around the world and say, oh my God, you have the most amazing life. And Craig actually wrote a post called I Want to Know Your Secret on our Why Travel blog. We'll link to it in the show notes, but it's always been our most popular post because what you were saying in that is, hey, our life looks glamorous and whatever, but what you don't see behind the scenes is like the heartache and the hard lessons that we've learned and the failure after failure. Some of them we're just still too embarrassed to talk about. You don't see that behind, the person's highlight reels, and you don't understand what goes into it. And part of our passion about Raleigh and part of what we're doing now is born from that heartache. Years of failure and pain and being at the lowest of the low simply because we dreamt about living here. That's how much we love this place. You can't, it's hard to really kind of explain that, but that's where it's all
crazy.
coming from.
Yeah, there's a lot of tears. I remember you finally take a look at the finances, and I just remember breaking down on the phone when I realised how horrible and how big of a hole we dug ourselves and not knowing how to get out of it. That was the scary part. That was really scary. And I guess it's relevant to these times now, what people are going through with COVID, with businesses closing, people losing their jobs, losing their income. It's scary. And not having a plan B really, and not knowing not having any life savings. I mean, it was like we were mid-30s. We were parents to a young child. You'd lost your job teaching. We'd lost all that money, both our real estate properties. We had no life savings, we call it superannuation funds in Australia, your IRA funds here or whatever. We had nothing.
Nothing. We didn't even own anything.
We didn't own nothing. We had no assets, no money, no jobs, no careers, no future. It was devastating.
It was devastating.
It was many nights cry ourselves to sleep, and yeah, we didn't know what we were going to do. But then, like you said, we come across travel blogging online, and the difference was we would be doing something that we were passionate about or experts in, and we could throw our heart and soul into. Whereas like the real estate, the trading shares and the stock market and stuff was kind of like we're just chasing the money.
Yeah, we really were.
We weren't really. We
were desperate.
We didn't really have the aptitudes for it.
The passion.
All the passion.
Yeah.
I mean, real estate. Yeah. I mean, I'm still excited. Real estate. I could invest in real estate again. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We just chose the wrong property and in a challenging time.
Yeah.
Like we didn't do our due diligence and we acted, we just saw dollar signs without really crunching the numbers and thinking about everything else that goes into the property.
Yeah, that's right.
But, the stock market and the other online businesses, no, we were just like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to bring it back because, you mentioned about people, what they're going through now in COVID. And I just want to share that the last year has taken us back to 2010 because we're obviously in the travel space and we lost 90% of our income overnight. So it's been a very challenging year for us. Mm-hmm. I think the difference between now and then and what has really helped us move through this year is that we've been through it before. And we understand that the low points are actually part of the journey and they're there to teach you things and help you grow, and that everything passes. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
And we know it because we've lived it. We were in the worst of the worst. And we'll share a little bit how we got out of that, but we did get out of it and we turned it around. And for the last 10 years, we've lived what could be called our dream life. But now we've hit that down cycle again. But it's like, okay, we've been through this. We know it's actually a really powerful time for learning and change. And as much as you're frightened and scared and terrified, because this past year we have been terrified because it's like everything we know has gone, how are we going to get out of it? We know we're going to get out of it because we have before. Yeah. And we know that we're smart and powerful enough to do what needs to be done to get out of it. We might not be able to see how, but we know and we can trust in ourselves. And I think that's part of what came out of the 2010 disaster as well, was us being able to rely on and trust in ourselves.
Yeah, sure. And just thinking back to 2010 now, as devastating as it was, I mean, we were 35, and that's only one of the things that kept me going, like we were young enough to recover. I mean, there were horrible stories of people that lost, in their 60s and 70s, had lost their whole, retirement funds, their whole life savings, and would have to, try and find jobs at Walmart. Like, that would have been horrible. Yeah. Like, there was always someone worse off than us. So that was, that was a way to keep our chin up and keep going. We're young enough to recover and rebuild.
Yeah. And if you're going through tough times right now, I know it's hard. We've been there and we know how it feels like, but just know that it will pass and that you can't see it now, but things will get better. It will. It's just the cycles of life that we all go through.
Yeah, it is a cycle. I mean, we're going through one now financially again and emotionally, and, there'll be challenges in the future as well.
Oh,
it's just like learning your lessons and hopefully not repeating them, learning how to pivot and better prepare. I mean, nobody could have seen this coming. I guess I guess nobody's prepared for whether you're a restaurant, a gym, a salon, online business. I guess nobody had plan C in the back of their mind for a global pandemic.
Even the insurance policies didn't. They didn't even cover it.
But yeah, I guess now, what can you do? Build up a cash nest egg, I guess, because cash always, you need access to a certain amount of cash for that rainy day fund. When all your available income streams dry up or credit dries up.
Thankfully, we did have that this time.
Yeah, and multiple streams of income. Yeah.
Yeah. We've learned
I'm not going to give you financial advice.
No.
Financial advice.
Don't take financial advice from people who've done what we've done.
Just in a nutshell. We're interviewing local businesses right now, restaurants and bars and cafes and stuff. And one of the questions is, how did you pivot in 2020 during the pandemic? And in hindsight, what could you have done to prepare yourself for this? And some people are just saying there's nothing they
Yeah.
really could have done to prepare. From a restaurant perspective, it's like make sure you have outdoor dining available. Your online ordering system is as best it can be. And that was basically it.
Yeah.
Like those two systems in place. But other than that, what
Yeah.
can you do?
What can
And
you
obviously
do?
savings, good credit. Keep your credit as best as you can, stuff like that.
And-
Cash flow.
I honestly think the best thing you can do to prepare is something when people always ask, what are your secrets to blogging success? And the number one thing I do is work on myself. I work on
Yeah.
myself, my mindset, my skill level, all of those things. Because I know no matter what happens, and I learnt this from the 2010 financial disaster of ours, that all I can at the end of the day, I cannot control anything that happens. Like, and we're seeing this with COVID. We can't control it, but I can rely on myself. All I have is myself at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
I'm going to work on myself every day, my mindset, my personal development, my spiritual growth, whatever it is, so that I am strong enough and steady enough that when we do get thrown into the storm, we can find our way out.
Yeah. All right. So back to how we got started in blogging again. So 2010, I'm working at RDU Airport with Delta, earning a huge hourly rate of $12 an hour. We've lost most of our real estate properties. We've donated 50 grand in the stock market. I mean, 30 grand in credit card debt. We've got no savings. And I get a phone call from you saying, all excited, Craig, I've finally found what we're going to do. I've come across this thing called travel blogging online. People are writing about blogging and making money. We can do this. And I'm like, so what is blogging exactly? And you go, it's like writing your diary online and sharing your life and your tips and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to go from where you're writing in your own personal diary, your own stories where you don't even let me read it, to sharing our life online. Yeah, let's do that. That's going to get us out of this mess.
Great stories in my journal.
Oh, I'm sure. But so 2010 travel blogging blogging or travel blogging become a thing. People were writing about, they'd be taking gap years or traveling around the world full time, started sharing their stories. Initially, most of them for their family and friends to read, to keep up to date with their travels. But some also having a business mindset to create a business around it. So you're kind of thinking like, well, we've been traveling around the world and living in different countries since 2002. We have a lot of tips.
Well, me, 1997.
Yeah,
so
a
even
lot of
further.
tips and a lot of stories
Yeah.
to share. So, it made sense. Like, why not? Let's do it. I mean, I guess the initial thing was it doesn't take much money to get started. It's
Yeah,
not
that's
like
right.
a brick and mortar business. It's just had to create a website, get some hosting, I mean, social media wasn't even a thing then, really either.
Well, Facebook
was the only
really
one.
helpable to us in the beginning.
Yeah, so the
stages.
startup costs were very minimal. Obviously, we had no idea about all the tech stuff and creating a website and design and
always
marketing
learn.
and email marketing and all that sort of stuff. But we got started. We hit the ground running. And I remember, like, you were teaching full time. I was getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning to start work at 5 a.m. at RDU. And I remember we'd get home from work and we'd work on a site all night. I remember up till like midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
and living off like 4 or 5 hours sleep. And for that first 6 months, was the last 6 months of that 2-year stint living in Raleigh again.
Yeah.
Before, at that point, we'd decided we best move back to Australia.
No, we hadn't decided at that point. I mean, we were really passionate about the site, but we still wanted to remain in the US and do it. What happened was I lost my job because this is the
that's
middle
right.
of the GFC.
Yeah.
So there were like budget cuts everywhere. And the education system got hit pretty hard. So, the first person who's going to lose their job is me because I'm there as a foreign exchange. I'm not there permanently. And so I lost my job. It was just what happened. It couldn't be helped. And so my principal was upset about it. I was upset about it. And we'd hit, like, it was a couple of days since I lost my job. And, we were devastated knowing that this was it. We couldn't stay in the country anymore. We couldn't stay in Raleigh and we had to go back home. And it was very different from the first time because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, the first time was really just us having a great cultural living in another country experience before we drop and move somewhere else. But this time we just really knew we wanted to live here. And there was just something that kept saying to me, it's time to go back to Australia and work on the blog. Like, this is really what you need to do. But there was this battle in my mind but I don't want to go back to Australia. I want to stay in the US.
Yeah.
And during this time, and then it was like, okay, we have to, and then the decision was kind of made within that for whatever reason, my inner voice is telling me, go back to Australia now. And so we came to the decision, well, it's time to go back, and we're going to go back, and we're going to really focus on this blog. And then as we had made this decision, my principal phones me up and she goes, Carolyn, I'm so excited. Guess what? I've been able to move things around and you can keep your job.
She actually called me first because
Yeah.
she couldn't get in contact with you. I remember I was driving home from work on the Beltline one day and got a phone call. She was trying to get in contact with you or whatever. And she told me, and I'm kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this. We've found a way to stay. And I'm thinking, no, we've already made the decision. I know I'm not going to put that pressure on you to teach, to keep us in the US. That's not fair to you. But yeah, that's crazy.
That was the
again, it was
hardest
like
thing.
juggling. Oh, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? But yeah, I think, in hindsight, obviously we made the right decision to take
we did, 100%.
take a giant step backwards, build our foundation again, go back to Australia, lived with my parents, which I was grateful for. They helped us out a ton. You did substitute teaching, and I worked in construction with a friend of mine again. And yeah, just started building our business, building our blog. Obviously, Australia, there was even less people travel blogging in Australia compared to the US. I mean, purely from a population perspective, even to this day. But yeah, so we'll be able to build our site to where it got to a stage where I quit my job, you quit your job, we're working on it full time, and we did a 18-month road trip around Australia.
Yeah, that's right. And in this time frame as well, we also had Savannah, our second.
How could we forget? That was Savannah.
We had Savannah, so there's a 4-year age difference between Kalila and Savannah. And so we had been working on the blog for maybe 18 months, I guess, when Savannah was born. And as I said, we made the decision to come back. It was the hardest decision I think we've ever made. But we said, okay, we're going to make this work. If we have to give up Raleigh, we're going to make this work, and we're going to find a way to come back. And so that was our intention.
Yeah.
It took 7 years or whatever, but
we
did it, and we had this amazing journey along the way. And we did. We grew so much because we had that intention to make it work. Mm-hmm. We were right time, right place. Finally, the luck was in our place, because in our favour, because we did come over to Australia at the right time when blogging was starting to go off, and as you said, no one else was doing it, and we just seized those opportunities. Every opportunity that came our way, we were on it, and we were like, we're going to make this work. We have no other choice. Our back's against the wall, and we knew. We were doing travel, we were doing short trips and things with the girls, and we were like, okay, it's time for us to walk our talk and really show our community that we're about creating a travel lifestyle, making it the focus of your life and doing it. So we said, we're going to travel around Australia. So we took off, and we ended up being 18 months, and the blog just grew unbelievably. We had an extraordinary growth, and then we could take it from there, and here we are.
Yeah, no, like you said, in Australia we did those short. I mean, we went to New Zealand for a short trip. We did. Went to Singapore, a few other short trips, but that big trip around Australia was something else. I mean, it's amazing to see our own country, see our own backyard properly. I mean, most people leave it till they're retired, but you never know if you're going to make it to retirement, how your body's going to be in retirement, and what your finances are going to be. So we're fortunate enough to have that opportunity to do that then. But yeah, I mean, we put in the work, we put in the hours. Like, people think of, blogging, they don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. We're certainly not sitting around by the pool or on the beach and drinking cocktails all day and just watching sunset. It's a lot of, it's not hard work physically, obviously, but hours. It's, time, what's the word I'm looking for?
Time investment.
Time investment, yeah. I mean, as they say, like every entrepreneur or online business owner, they work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours in a job. And pretty much that's what we do. I mean, even to this day, we can still push in 60 hours a week.
Yeah, easy.
But the difference is you're working in your own business, you're your own boss, and it's a lot easier. Like, you're working for yourself. So, and we enjoy what we do.
Yeah,
so it
we did.
Makes it easier.
And we I mean, we were doing things that we were scared of. We were doing things we didn't want to do, like having to get up, and get on TV and be interviewed. You know, I think we did some commercial stuff, speaking, all these kind of things that was just terrifying to us. But it was like, if we don't do this, we can't get the dream. Like, as I said, our intention was always to come back here. And, you know, we made a lot of sacrifices. When Savannah was 10 days old, you left to go on a dream trip. You didn't want to, because you obviously
Lucky
didn't want to
me.
leave Savannah, and she was only 10 days old, and Kalara was 4. But you got to have this amazing experience with Qantas, which was a dream client that we wanted to work with.
Yeah.
And we knew, okay, this is an opportunity we can't say no to.
Yeah, we went to. We got invited by Qantas. Reached out to us, and they were for the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand in 2011. Qantas are the sponsors of the Australian Wallabies, the rugby team, and they came up with this creative campaign where they're going to have 20 RVs. They're like Class A RVs, or we call them motorhomes in Australia, and people could win a seat in the RV, or a couple, just showing how much of a raving fan they are of the Australian Wallabies team. And they had 2 other bloggers, me and this other person, in another motorhome RV, just going around
The official correspondence.
as a blogging correspondent, just taking photos, writing blog posts about the whole experience and going to the games and stuff, which was amazing. But I remember we first got invited to the Qantas at a press event at Sydney Airport, and we almost didn't make it because the weather was horrible, the traffic was insane. We took a wrong turn and just got jammed in traffic.
Yeah.
We almost missed the start of this press conference, and we almost went home. And if we did, the whole thing in New Zealand might not have happened, and the whole partnership that we ended up building with Qantas mightn't happen. But we just persisted and made the effort
And
to turn up.
showed
Just
up.
showed up.
And it was early in the morning, and I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think we got up at 4:30 to get down there, and thankfully made it on time. But I think we were the only bloggers that turned up.
Because we lived a 2-hour drive from Sydney Airport, and it's like they say, like, so much of success is just showing up.
Yeah.
And we showed up.
We did.
And things just fell into place from there. I mean, didn't get paid by Qantas or any stretch of the imagination.
But it was an
ever.
opportunity,
But
and we saw the
building
leverage we could
relationships
get,
with big companies and big brands like that you can then put on your resume, and when you're reaching out to other companies and stuff, like, just the credibility that it creates, and your experience with other brands is priceless in that regard.
So let's talk about the other big thing that was huge.
Another big thing?
Huge for credibility, and involved sacrifices, a lot of investment too.
I can't even think what you're going to say.
And then this all leads up to our green card, because we had to prove that we were on top of travel blogging.
Yes, how could
so
I forget?
there were things that
it's
we
very
had to
relevant
do.
to what's going on right now. We did an update on Instagram the other day.
Instagram the other day, but we were traveling. We were in Western Australia at the time. We were out
Let
at
me paint the
Bush.
picture. We were in a mining town in northwestern Australia. Literally no internet, hardly any people around. There for 2 or 3 nights. We did a trip around Australia in our camper trailer. Like, we towed a pop-up camper trailer. So we're just in a campsite basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then this email comes through.
Once we got back into civilization.
Yeah, once we got back into civilization, this email comes through, and the subject letter was all caps, White House invitation. Yeah, so I opened the email up, and I'm like, what's this all about? I mean, like, why would we get invited to the White House? And in all caps, I think it's just one of those spammy emails or whatever. But I read it, and it was like, you guys have been invited to the White House, guess the president. There's this, we're doing a campaign around study abroad and global education and stuff like that.
The first travel summit ever held at the White House.
First ever travel summit, yeah. And, something like, there was a form attached. Please reply with your interest and give us a copy of your driver's license and your social security number. I'm like, oh, massive red flag. Yeah. I'm like, I remember I replied cheekily, like, oh yeah, here you go. Here's all my ID online. Have fun with that. I'm like,
make sure Obama flies us first class. I think we said some.
Yeah, and I said only if I get to
like
meet Barack Obama and stuff like that. And like, just all cheekily, and I put it in all caps and that too. And I just sent it off, not thinking nothing about it. And then I keep seeing some other blogging friends or some chatter on Twitter, by memory it was like, did you get this invitation on this? I said, yeah, it's just me a scam. What's all this all about? But then I just keep seeing it. And then I can't remember, like maybe a week later, the lady who reached out to us actually replied, said, no, this is not a scam. This is for real. Here's
my LinkedIn profile.
Here's a link to my LinkedIn profile. Here's my Twitter account. I'm actually officially working the Obama administration.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
oh my God, how embarrassing.
This could be real. And I emailed back and said, I apologize for that cheeky email and stuff like that. She goes, no worries. I said, I apologize for how I reached out. Obviously, it did come across as like fake and whatever. But she had the particular email system they were using at the time. That's the only way she could find us and reach out to us. So anyway, I did some digging around, looked at a LinkedIn profile, asked other bloggers and researched, and yeah, it ended up being legit. So we're like, we're in Western Australia, like hours and hours and hours away from Perth.
Furthest you could get from DC.
The furthest from DC. But we're even miles and miles away from Perth, the nearest major airport, even if we wanted to fly.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So anyway, we kind of we made a decision, okay, how are we going to make this work? We've got 2 young kids. They want to just fly us over to the White House. I mean, we had to pay. They weren't paying for anything, obviously.
We had to pay.
We had to pay for our flights, our accommodation,
expensive.
everything. But like, we thought, what an amazing opportunity. Like when the White House calls, you answer. And we're like, we're just going to make this. We're just going to find a way to make this happen. So anyway, we kind of hot-tailed it down to Perth and, put plans in place, researching flights, researching accommodations, spoke to our family back in Sydney. They were going to look after our kids for 2 weeks, and we're going to fly over to the US. And we flew over to Raleigh and then hired a car and drove up to DC. But yeah, it was a monumental moment. And I remember we went from, it was summertime in Australia. It was
December.
Just December, just before Christmas. We're sitting, one moment, we're sitting on the beaches in Perth, like 90 degrees Fahrenheit and board shorts, barefoot. Next minute, we're
36 hours later.
36 hours later, we're in Washington, D.C. It's freezing cold, and we're on our way to the White House. And we're like, this is what's going on.
It was crazy. But we knew, because again, we wanted to get back here permanently, and we just knew that.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't know how, but we just thought something had to come of all these opportunities. Something we didn't know what, but we knew an opportunity would have to come from it. So,
but then, we flew 36 hours, paid for our flights, bought all those accommodation, drove up to DC from Raleigh, and then we almost didn't get into the White House.
Gosh, that was the worst. So, if you don't know, Americans write their dates backward.
Yeah.
The rest of the world doesn't.
You do it backwards. Come on.
So we do day and then month. And it had been some time, 4 years since we lived here. And so when I wrote my birthday, now my birthday's October 8th. So, if you do it backwards, either way, it looks like you have a legit birthday, right? Because 10, 8 and 10. And I had, on one document, I had written it American style. And the other document, I wrote it Australian style. And then obviously my passport is Australian style. And so we get to the gates of, we had been into the White House at this stage. Somehow I was able to get into the White House, but then we were going into the actual study abroad summit where the chief of staff, Obama's chief of staff, was talking to us. And I don't know why, but security must have been tired of going in there or what, just the person that was on the gate. But so he was looking at the form.
Matching up with your passport, maybe?
Yeah, and so I don't know, but whatever, it wasn't matching because the form he had the Australian date. It should have been the other way around. And he's like, there's a discrepancy with the birth dates here. I can't let you in. And I was like, what? And I'm like, I just couldn't find my words. And I'm like, and then I'm trying to explain to him, I'm Australian, and we write the date. And he's like, I'm aware of that, man, but it needs to match on the form. And I can't let you in, and you need to get Fran
was the name, the organizer of our whole trip. I mean, but yeah, it's paint the pitching. It's raining. There's a long line. People are anxious to get into the White House, and we're holding things up. And we're like, but.
Yeah.
We've flown all the way from Australia, 36 hours, spent a lot of money, and we're here for an official event. And he's like,
I couldn't find. I had to find Fran. I couldn't find her. I'm trying to get her on the
no
phone.
cell
but
phone service. She wasn't
there's
answering
no
her phone because she's
service,
busy.
And then I just broke down in tears, like legit. I was so upset because I thought, I cannot believe what we've gone through to get here. And I start crying to the man, and I'm like, I've flown all the way from Perth, Australia. Have you ready? I left my 2 kids at home. And blah, 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 crying. And
But initially, he's like, obviously, he's doing his job. It's like, he doesn't care. It's like, this is security. This is a White House.
I know, and he had
I'm not letting you in
protocol, and I'm like, I'm trying to get Fran, and then Pauline from was there. She was so lovely. She took me, and she was comforting me and talking to me, and she's like, don't worry, we're going to sort this out. It's going to be fine. And then I don't know what happened, but I don't know if he spoke to someone, or he just felt really sorry for me, and then he said, okay, it's okay, you're legit, you can go in. And I later found Fran, and Fran went and sorted it out with him, but it was like, oh my gosh, we almost didn't get in.
So many speed bumps.
Yeah.
Roadblocks. But yeah, I mean, breaking down and crying has helped us a few times when we were in a
Yeah.
tight spot. The other time with our passport in LA, which is another story.
Yeah,
but,
that's another story.
But yeah, we got into the events. So initially we had a morning breakfast in some flash hotel overlooking the Washington Monument. I can't remember the name. But
W Hotel.
yeah, we went into a tour of the White House. The other magical thing was it was Christmas time, so the White House had all the Christmas decorations. It was just magical.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
We went into the stateroom, the library. What's the wing that we explored?
I don't think we weren't allowed in the West Wing.
East
I think
Wing.
it was the East.
Yeah. We heard talks from Obama's chief of staff at the time. His name I had it on the tip of my tongue.
I can't remember.
It's been a
He
while.
had white hair.
And a few other distinguished guests speaking, and we went to another, listened to some panels and stuff, and had lunches and stuff. It was just all la-di-da. It was amazing. Again, we're like, us from small town Australia who were in the White House. It was just mind-blowing. It was amazing. One of our most cherished memories.
Yeah. It was really worthwhile us doing it, and so we'll just kind of skip forward to, obviously we went back to Australia, we finished our road trip, and then continually looking, how can we get back there, having no idea at all that there was a way that we could, and we just tossed up ideas. Perhaps we could get in and out of the country in 6 months business visas and do it like that, which would just be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, because you can't just cross the border into Canada or Mexico and come back into the US and start another 6 months. You have to actually leave the continent, either fly to the UK or somewhere way down in Central America. And this is not going to be practical.
No. And so we were like, we're not sure if this is going to happen. And so this is 2016 when we're still,
we're living on the Gold Coast. We finished our 18 months around Australia. We're living on the Gold Coast in Burleigh Head. It's an amazing place, and we're still trying to find ways.
It'd been 6 years since we left. We're still trying to get back there.
And another turn of luck I can talk about. I'm not the hugest fan of Instagram, but I always be grateful for Instagram for what happened. I was just scrolling. You just scroll through photos, not paying too much attention. Barely half the time you're reading the descriptions and the captions and stuff. But there was this one particular photo, and I just clicked on it for some reason, and it was another online blogger entrepreneur from New Zealand. The suitcase entrepreneur, you might be familiar with her, Natalie Sisson.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, by memory, it was a photo of sailboats from Wellington, New Zealand. And she was just, had nothing to do with her description. She just started talking about this immigration lawyer because she was trying to find a way to live in the US as well. She came across this immigration lawyer in the US who specializes in a particular business visa called an O1 business visa. And this type of visa is for people who are extraordinary in their field, whether they're actresses, athletes, scientists, publishers. And she pursued that and was able to get this O1 business visa through being an online entrepreneur. And I just messaged her and said, oh, wow, that sounds interesting. I've never heard of this type of visa. Who's your contact? And she gave us our contact, James, our awesome immigration lawyer, who was living in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. And he specialized in this O1 business visa and organized a Skype call, had a chat with him. He said, yeah, you guys sound like you are experts in your field. You've got a solid case. I think you have potential. and that started the ball rolling.
We just could not believe it.
Oh my God.
We were
It was like,
no way. How did we not know about this? How, like...
Yeah, I was just randomly scrolling through Instagram that day. If I didn't click on that photo, we still might not be living in Raleigh.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But
Yep. Meant to be.
O1 business visa, you could get it for 3 years, but then you could extend it indefinitely. So I thought, wow, let's go for it.
You're like, wow.
So we went
it.
through, I don't know how long.
Pain. Like a year. It was at least a year, 9 months to a year.
Yeah, endless
application
emails,
process.
applications, paperwork. We had to get references from 20 other people in our field.
We had to gather all of our press, TV, print, film, interviews, podcasts, everywhere we'd been featured. Obviously, the White House trip helped immensely.
Yeah, but this was all time consuming.
Immensely.
Yeah, putting everything in together. Then we went down to Sydney and we had to have an interview at the US consulate. And this is like way into the application. And James is like, sometimes they can be really tough. I suggest we had to print out a 500-page application each. He goes, I don't know if they want to see it, but you've come this far. You don't want to stumble at the last hurdle. Just in case. It's always better to be more over-prepared. I said, okay. So we had to try and find a printing place who would print out 1,000 pieces of paper. It's probably easy in the US, but it wasn't so easy in Australia. And even just that cost over $100 just to print out. So anyway, here we are. We jump on the train, go down to Sydney to the US consulate for our interview, and I'm carrying around a cardboard box full of 1,000 pieces of paper. It was like carrying bricks. So we go into this interview, talk to the US consulate, and he doesn't even ask to look at one piece of paper.
Yeah, we're like, don't you want to look at this? Do you want to look at this application?
I'm kind of thinking, like, why would he want to? What? It was just all this lawyer jargon. It was just a headache. But that just brings us up. We could have pursued this visa by ourselves, but I don't think we would have got it done. Just the fact that it was a 500-page application each, and just the cover letter, I couldn't even understand it. Like I said, all the lawyer jargon.
Yeah.
So it ended up costing us, in all up 4 years, probably over $50,000 because there was 4 of us. Like all the fees, all the immigration lawyer fees, all the fees to the US government, all the paperwork, everything. Probably $50,000 and 4 years to get a green card that we officially got over the line last year.
Yeah, well, we'll talk
medicals,
about
everything. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So, like, leading to the green card, like, we didn't have the green card again. We didn't know green card was possible. We just knew we could come over and extend every 3 years.
Yeah, sorry, I've jumped ahead a few years here.
Yeah, so we eventually got the go. I think it was like February 2017. We went to the consulate. They said, yes, you're approved. And then we were ready to go pretty much. We were just waiting for the yes. And so we packed our bags and in March came back via Hawaii. And when we came back to Raleigh, straight away, we weren't intending to settle in Raleigh at that time because part of our O1 visa application process, we had to explain at the top of our field what we were going to do to help America. And so a lot of it was, well, we're going to travel around the country and promote the country, which we have done. We have done the entire time that we've been here. But we've just... a lot of it, like we did the 12-month in the RV, but a lot of it we came in and out of Raleigh on short road trips. But when we first came out over here, we thought we were just going to travel continuously. So we started traveling and we realised that wasn't working. We got a base and came in and out before we did the RV trip. But anyway, so we came over, we in Raleigh for a month, catching up with everyone, getting a car, getting set up, and then we did some road tripping. And so we went over into Tennessee. And James was in Nashville. And so we called up James and said, hey, we want to meet you in real life. And he's like, yes, let's go out for dinner. And so we went out for dinner and we're sitting there with him, just casually eating, catching up, whatever. And he said, oh, yeah, guys. And so, by the way, like, what we can do now is just pretty much resubmit your O1 visa and get you a green card. And Craig and I just I think we just dropped our forks and said, what? We can get a green card now because of this? And he said, oh, yeah, it's super easy now that you've got the O1 visa. It's just a launching step to the green card. We just resubmit everything you've got. We're like, James, do you have any idea what you just told us?
Oh, man. Our shout. Dinner is on us. But no, I was just stepping back. Like, how could I forget? Part of process of applying for the O1 visa, I forgot. We literally, because it was a 3-year visa, I literally had to write a 3-year itinerary. Like, can you imagine? It was I think it ended up being over 50 pages long.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard enough to write.
With blog post title ideas.
Yeah, with story ideas,
Yeah.
how we're going to promote each place and market it. And I mean, it's hard enough just to write an itinerary for like a 1 or 2 week vacation. 3 years. Fortunately, the US has 50 states and so many places to visit that I filled it out.
We still haven't done all of what's in that plan. We've done a lot though.
But yeah.
And the other thing he said to us too, yes, we can get the green card, no problem. He is, but what I want you to do now is get yourself featured in publications, traditional media. So we actually hired a publicist who really did a great job of that for us. So she got us on a lot of traditional media, and thankfully a couple of big ones was we're in New York and was interviewed on Fox Business about our trip, and Cheddar TV, which was great because Cheddar TV was actually filmed in the stock exchange, which no one can get in, but I was able to be in there at the ringing of the bell at the end of the day as I was being interviewed.
Yeah.
So those things really helped us to be able to, again, going for the green card, to again prove that, hey, we're still at the top of our field, we're still getting featured by all these top name publications and working with top name brands, which is what we had to prove as being able to get that green card.
Yeah, that's right. It was quite a journey. When I say 4 years, it was a long 4 years. And then even we got awarded a green card, but it was still 12 months later till we actually had the green card in our hands. More money, more fees, more interviews. Some process.
But now we have it, and we have it for 10 years. Again, we can roll it over now, but in 5 years' time, we can go for citizenship. So we're both seriously considering it because we know, we've always known for the last 16 years this is where we want to be, and I don't feel like it'll change, and we can become dual citizens. Thankfully, Australia allows us to do that.
Yeah.
So it's something that we may look at doing.
Yeah, I think it'd just make our life easier again as far as, I mean, like we've invested our time and energy to stay here. We want to stay here. It just makes life easier as far as like financing, running our business, everything. Take that extra. And obviously, the only thing we can't do as green card holders is vote.
Which is something we do want to do. Yeah.
So that's probably what we'll do.
Yeah. That's it. That's the long journey. So we've just shared the first few episodes. We wanted to really, let you know a little bit about who we are, where we come from, how we got here, why we're so passionate about it. And, I'm sure we've given you a clear picture now of what we went through
but who knows? When I think back now, like all those times we were thinking of ways, how can we live in the US permanently? I remember, was sitting on the beaches of Thailand trying to think, how can we start up a business, make it our full-time income? How can we live in the USA full-time? And who would have known that travel blogging would have been the path that allowed this to happen? It's just crazy.
Oh my God, it's insane. And I'll put a link in the show notes in the description to a keynote I gave at the Travel Blogging Conference last year, because it touched on that idea, and I said in that, there's no way we could ever have written the script for this. There's no way that we could have ever, we just didn't know, but our pains, our tribulations led us to travel blogging. The thing that we loved most was talking about travel, which eventually brought us to the green card.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an insane story, and how everything came around full circle for us.
Yeah.
Just, it took a lot longer than we hoped, but it gave us a great journey along the way.
Yeah, and we're still writing the story, and there's many chapters to come.
Yeah, that's right. It's exciting new chapters now as we're settled and we can actually immerse ourselves in this community for real and just give back to it by highlighting what we love about this city, sharing the magic of it with you. You can tell now we see Raleigh as a magical kind of place, and sharing the stories, as we spoke about in the first couple of episodes. It was really the people that drew us in and that we love so much. And so we're excited to be able to in the coming episodes share stories. I mean, we're doing it now on the blog, you mentioned, through blog post interviews, but to bring guests on and share their stories and what they're doing to make this community so great and what they love about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone has their own story. I mean, you've just heard part of our story, but it's not all about us, and we want to share everyone's story, or as many people as we can that make up this community.
That's right, and we'd
places.
love to hear from you. We want to hear who would you like us to chat to on the podcast? What would you like us to chat about and share? And you've probably gathered we could talk about a lot of things. We do want to bring in some elements of travel as well because that's our expertise. And Raleigh has such a great location to many spots. And if you're looking for weekend getaways or 2-week trips or whatever, we can share our tips and advice on that. So we would love to hear from you. You can send us email kazcraig@thisisraleigh.com. We're at Instagram at
just shoot
Raleigh.
us a direct message through Instagram or
Yep.
Facebook or email through the blog, like you said. But yeah, even domestic trips within the US. We've done a lot of travel in the US. Obviously, we can't fly internationally right now. Well, to some places you can, but most people are, focused on domestic travel. But we've done a lot of US travel. I don't know how many states. I don't. Not one to
We're
count.
close to 30 there. We're not great at counting because we're going from memories.
Should figure that out, actually, just out of interest's sake. But yeah.
But you can also check out ytravelblog.com. That's the letter Y. We have a ton of information there on the US travel, but also a lot on Australia and other countries too. And that's the thing that got us here. So yeah, do go and check that out for other travel. Loads of travel tips too about saving money and travel planning and all of that. It's a very in-depth blog.
All right, that was a bit of a long one, so maybe we should wrap that up.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. That's 3 down. Next podcast interview, we haven't discussed what we're going to talk about yet, have we?
No, we haven't, but we will figure that out, and we will start putting together some really cool episodes on the podcast about Raleigh.
Yeah, we've got lots to talk about.
Yep.
Places to eat and drink, things to see and do, getaways, lifestyle, living here, all the above.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you. Hopefully, we'd love it if you share us with your friends, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.